2020, in the middle of a pandemic, I am tired. I'm so tired. And I've been quarantined. I haven't gone anywhere. And I'm exhausted. And this last week, working at home, blessed to be working at home in my wonderful studio and bubble in this box. But after this week, this past week, I realized how tired I am. And I'm not the only one. In 1852, Frederick Douglass was tired. Fellow citizens, pardon me, and allow me to ask why I am called upon to speak here today. What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and natural justice embodied in the Declaration of Independence extended to us? Am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude? Would to God, both for your sakes and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then would my task be light and my burden easy and delightful. But such is not the state in this case. I say it with a sad sense of disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, but not me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions whose chains, heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered more intolerable by the jubilant shouts that reach them. If I do not remember those bleeding children of sorrow today, may my right hand forget her cunning, and may my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. Tired. In 1903, W.E.B. Du Bois, he was tired. One ever feels his two-ness. An American, a Negro. Two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, whose strength alone keeps him from being torn asunder. The history of the American Negro is the history of this strife, this longing to attain self-conscious manhood, to merge his double self into a better and truer self. In this merging, he wishes neither of the older selves to be lost. He simply wishes to make it possible for a man to be both a Negro and an American. He was tired. In 1969, Shirley Chisholm, in her speech that she gave challenging the Congress, she said, "Mr. Speaker, on the same day President Nixon announced that he had decided the United States will not be safe unless we start to build a defense system against missiles. The Head Start program in the District of Columbia was cut back for the lack of money. As a teacher, as a woman, I do not think I will ever understand what kind of values can be involved in spending $9 billion and more on elaborate, unnecessary, impractical weapons when several thousand disadvantaged children in the nation's capital get nothing. When the new administration took office, I was one of the many Americans who hoped it would mean that our country would benefit from the fresh perspectives, new ideas, the different priorities of a leader who had no part in the mistakes of the past. Mr. Nixon had said things like, "We can delay no longer in launching new approaches to the problems that beset them and to the tensions that tear them apart." And he said, "When we cut expenditures for education, what you are doing is shortchanging the American future." But frankly, I have never cared too much what people say. What I'm interested in is what they do. Then we have Reverend Martin Luther King as he sat in a jail in Birmingham, Alabama. And he wrote, "Moreover, I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. You deplore the demonstrations that are presently taking place in Birmingham. But I'm sorry that your statement did not express a similar concern for the conditions that brought the demonstrations into being. I'm sure that each of you would want to go beyond the superficial social analyst who look merely at effects and does not grapple with the underlying causes. In any nonviolent campaign, there are 4 basic steps: collection of the facts to determine whether injustices are alive, negotiation, self-purification, and direct action. We've gone through all of these. There can be no gainsaying of the fact that racial injustice engulfs this community. Birmingham is probably the most thoroughly segregated city in the United States. Its ugly record of police brutality is known in every section of this country. Its unjust treatment of Negroes in the courts is a notorious reality. There have been more unsolved bombings of Negro homes and churches in Birmingham than any other city in this nation. These are the hard, brutal, and unbelievable facts. We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have never engaged in a direct action movement that was well timed according to the timetable of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of racism. For years, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with a piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. It has been a tranquilizing thalidomide, relieving the emotional stress for a moment only to give birth to an ill-formed infant of frustration. We must come to see that the distinguished jurist of yesterday, that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited for more than 340 years for our God-given and constitutional rights. Then we have in 1976, Barbara Jordan. She said, "We the people," it is a very eloquent beginning. But when the Constitution of the United States was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that "we the people." I felt for many years that somehow George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in the "we the people." The American dream is not dead. It's gasping for breath, but it is not dead. My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total. And I'm not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution. We only want, we only ask that when we stand up and talk about one nation under God, liberty, justice for everybody, we only want to be able to look at the flag, put our right hand over our hearts, repeat those words, and know that they are true. We may be tired. There are times when we can't breathe. But the Bible says joy comes in the morning. And tomorrow is another day. And it will be a better day. I hope.